Where's John? Where's John? Holy cow.
How's it going, guys? Come with me. I'm going to meet my buddy Marco, talk to him about his trip from India. Marco, you're back.
John! What? Oh, good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you too. Welcome back to the Philippines.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's talk.
Meanwhile,
Go shake everybody.
She always has me shake.
Shake it off.
Shake it like a Polaroid picture. Marco, you're back.
I'm back. I'm thrilled to be back.
It's great to have you here. Where you been?
I have been in India, land of mystery, gurus, spirituality galore.
Right.
Yeah.
So why'd you go over there?
Well, I have two very dear friends who are from a family I've been friends with for 25 years in the United States in Oregon. And this couple, and they're in their 70s, octogenarians, I think we call them.
Okay.
They started Peace Corps in the 60s, and they have returned to this international school in southern India probably like 7 or 8 times, done a semester of volunteer work, and I've always heard about it. I've seen the pictures, I've seen videos, and then they were there now while I was in the Philippines with me starting being empowered, and that could be an episode, and so that's how it happened, so I went there.
Very cool. So tell us how's Being Empowered doing. You mentioned that. Tell people if they haven't heard what it's about, what's going on.
Folks, it's just cooking. No, it's going fine. We've done now 2 full episodes. Well, I'm editing the 3rd one now, which will be the India episode. And it's been going great. I have, at this point, the Patreon channel, which is a membership channel, is mostly an American audience, and at this point, really like my friends, my close friends. So those close friends are stepping up and supporting the channel, supporting basically my work of trying to make the world a better place.
So that's what Being Empowered is about, right? It is you sharing stories, meaningful stories of people from around the world.
Absolutely.
So if people don't want to sign up for the Patreon immediately, but first want to check it out, where can they see some clips?
Thank you. Checks in the mail.
Pay me later.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't expect most people that I meet over here in developing countries to be members, because $10 in the US is a lot different than $10 here in the Philippines or developing countries. So we do have the YouTube channel Being Empowered, Instagram, and the Facebook page Being Empowered. So they can find there. They won't find like the full 15-minute episode at the end of each month, but they will find a shortened version, and they can keep touch. And I've actually said to everybody that if you want to see the full version, you just need to send me your email, tell me who you are, and I will send it to you via a link on an email.
There you go. So make sure and check it out in the links below. This wasn't meant to be a commercial, but he's my buddy Marco. I gotta mention it. So back to India. You've been here in Philippines for quite a while, then spent time over in India. How many times have you been to India?
This would have been my 2nd trip.
Okay.
First trip in 2019 just to Kolkata for 3 weeks, where I got my initial taste of what I would call being very stereotypical, traditional Mother Teresa India.
Okay.
But this was way different.
All right. So how was this one different?
This one was to an international school, and an international school that caters to definitely a higher income families of India. And at this point, the school originally had a lot of Western kids in it because of the missionary element that the school started with.
Right.
But now, no, it's mostly Asian kids from the local Asian countries, but they're high flyers. Okay. This is like the school swells in 11th and 12th grade because of this amazing IB program, International Baccalaureate program, that is super high academics that mainly means you are shooting for Harvard. you're shooting for Stanford. You're shooting for some really, really top-notch Western colleges.
Okay. And you mentioned it was like 7,000 feet up and a bit cold, which surprised me.
Yeah, you land in Madurai, which is traditional India, like, oh my God, could it get any hotter? And then you travel up into these very isolated mountains.
Yeah.
And it was very cool, put on a sweater in the evening. It still was humid, which was weird.
Sure.
Hard to dry things, but yeah, it was way, way different than what I've been now for the past year.
Okay. So what I want to do is get your input on some different subjects. I want you to compare Philippines versus India.
I'm ready.
All right. So first topic is dating. But before you go into that, Mr. Don Juan, I know that you've been looking for your soulmate here in the Philippines. Ladies looking for a good-looking single dude, reach out to Marco
Oh my God.
on Being Empowered, and I'm sure he'll take extra notice if you sign up for his Patreon. Is that what you told me to say?
Is that where we're going?
Is that what you told me to say?
I'm just selling myself.
You know, India, I'm sure, very different culture. You know, what are your thoughts on dating Philippines versus India?
If you're gonna go, basically, no, you're not going to date in India.
Okay.
You're just not like we do here. Like
And
here,
that's why you were only there 2 weeks.
I was definitely not there for dating. Although, you know, the radar's always open, and I met they have beautiful women. They have some gorgeous, gorgeous women. They're obviously taller than Filipinos by
Sure.
a long shot, but beautiful in their own way. But the norm here of the older foreigner and the younger Filipinos attracted them, that don't exist there.
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna. It might to a little degree, but there are barriers and cultural hurdles and religious hurdles and parent permission. Things that sometimes we see in the province here.
Sure.
But it's.
So do you feel like India hasn't been westernized in terms of this type of thing at all?
Well, obviously the British were there for a couple hundred years, and that there was, you can't help but start mixing up the DNA, and that has happened, but not to the degree that it is here.
So more conservative, a lot of cultural layers.
They're going to be much happier, especially if she's well educated, beautiful, etc. She's going to be happier with an Indian guy.
Sure.
And you got to be careful, because the women I talk to here, who are all, a lot of them are single moms looking, I get a skewed view of Filipino men. Because we both have met some wonderful
Sure.
Filipino men.
Of course.
But I get a skewed view of guys that have tripped out, gone, no support, and left her high and dry. Whereas there, I didn't see that much at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think here as well, they're like you said, we just get a skewed view because there is so many great Filipino family guys that are with their partners, not dating you.
Yeah.
So, and also I think, depending on the socioeconomic status of Filipinos, it's probably a lot different as well. So some of the Filipino guys that I talk to here would say, no self-respecting Filipina would date a foreigner, or
Really?
different stuff like that. So it's interesting. I feel the more money Filipinos have, the more they would tend to be dismissive
Yes.
of guys like you and I dating,
Yes.
Filipinas. Whereas I don't know what other Filipina guys, think. They're just, if they're not rich, they're mostly just too polite to make a comment like that in
Right.
the first place. But it makes it harder to know what they're actually thinking with stuff. So for you, if I could sum it up, it seems like you're saying the Philippines is a great place to date. India is a terrible place to date.
Yeah, terrible meaning that there isn't going to be the volume of opportunities that there is here. Obviously, Westerners do hook up, but they usually hook up an educated Western with an educated Indian, they happen to be working at the same company
Sure.
or at the same school and such like that, rather than the full-on dating app mode that goes on.
You were you were at an international school, but you weren't the last time you were there, right?
Correct.
So what do you feel in terms of, friendliness, comparing the two countries?
I would say, and I'll say that as soon as I stepped out of the school each day and walked to my guest house, which was about a mile away,
Okay.
I'd walk through what is kind of a tourist section, but there was a lot of typical Indians, Tibetans who had, 70 years ago with the Dalai Lama, now migrated to these areas. And they are definitely not as friendly.
Okay.
Generally. I met some incredibly nice and warm, friendly Indians, but generally no, not like walking down the street here. There's overflowing friendliness
In the
in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
All right, India.
India.
Little tough so far. What about something more general like food?
So I would say personally I like Indian food better.
Okay.
But they kind of go with my style, and I need to do a precursor here.
Okay.
I am not a foodie.
Right.
I like to eat, but I don't know names. But I love food, and they eat food like I do, which is a bunch of stuff, and you just start mixing.
Sure.
And you just start mixing it together. So I love curry, and I love a little spice, and they have some spice in their food. So some of the traditional dishes, and some that I wouldn't even know the names of, but it was really, really good. So I like Indian food better than I do. It even reminds me of Tex-Mex a little.
Okay, so
Kind of lots of sauces.
I didn't see that coming.
Lots of sauces.
Okay.
Because if you go down to Mexico and eat authentic taco, it's not just dripping with cheese and sauce and everything.
Right.
Right? Tex-Mex is. That's us Americans. So it's a little more was to my palate, which probably means that when I jump on the scale tonight, I'm going to see that.
All right. What about India versus Philippines in terms of standard of living, quality of life?
It's higher there.
Okay.
Okay. How much higher? All I can say, and I was hanging out in kind of two worlds. The school, these are people who have made it into the middle upper class of India, and it's a huge swath of the society now. Much like China did over the past 50 years with all their economic gains, India has done the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's there, and it's a much higher percentage than here.
Okay.
Comparing their infrastructure is better. You're going to go much faster on all the highways everywhere. Now, I wasn't in Mumbai, Bombay, all those big cities, Delhi, where I guess traffic is still a nightmare. Kolkata, I don't have many memories of Kolkata in terms of the traffic and such. I was trying to remember. No, they have a better infrastructure. They had in Kolkata, which kind of has this Mother Teresa poverty feel, and there's definitely some of that there. But they have a metro, a subway that was great.
So I wonder, how many people, guys, if you're surprised that India has better infrastructure and better standard of living, let me know if that surprises you in the comments below. For me, I think I hadn't thought about that too much, but maybe it does surprise me a little bit. I think I grew up, having that perception that India was very poor and struggling. But, as I think back to a couple of books I read about the economy in India and how it's really rising, that makes a lot more sense. So come on, Philippines, we got to work on the economy over here, infrastructure over here as well. What about, both countries were colonized, here by Spain for a long time, by the US for, a bit, and of course India by England for quite some time. How do you think that's impacted both countries?
Well, anytime a country's colonized, it's going to impact it in a huge way. So probably both, we're talking hundreds of years of colonization. For India, it's only the Brits that were there. And then, of course, the famous independence with Gandhi and all that, finally breaking free. But everywhere in their society, there is still the trappings of English influence, whether it's the accent when they speak their English, to cricket, to a lot of things that definitely are from those colonized days. And they grab onto that even with pride, which sometimes surprises me in Bangladesh as well when I was there. They still hold on to that for whatever reason. Yeah, they've got their independence, but we still kind of are civilized. And maybe some of what that civilization, the colonizers brought us, we keep and we like. Our afternoon tea, oh my gosh, high tea and all those things are still incredibly important to them. Philippines has two basic colonizers, the Spaniards, which we see in their language and architecture and such. But I would say the big difference is that, and Joe Coy says, the first hybrid country, meaning Filipinos by their mere definition are a hybrid of Spanish and the indigenous cultures, whereas in India, they are definitely Indian still.
Sure.
Influenced by British. So there's a big difference there. In the past 100 years, now this American influx, and obviously we've had an influx of our DNA with all the relationships that have gone on and continue to go on. But America, we can see American influence everywhere in this country, for better, for worse.
I just think the internet and so many other things, there's a different type of colonization that might happen with culture, these days. So in the Philippines, for example, I absolutely see a lot of, American or just kind of general Western culture. I also see huge influence from Korea, here in the Philippines as well with, K-drama and K-pop and, K-food as well. So I think as the world becomes a smaller place, other countries are going to be making a huge, impact as well. I think even for me, growing up watching American cartoons, my kids, growing up watching, Japanese anime, and then so much of an influence for, Korean, TV shows and movies, these days. So if it came to, someone watching this and saying, I've always been fascinated about India, but I've also heard so many amazing things about Philippines, I'm deciding which place to go on, let's say vacation.
Vacation. And your goal on the vacation.
I won't say moving.
And your vacation your goal is to have a good time, being...
Yeah.
They're both amazing, but in very different ways. Now, India's not going to have quite the tropical paradise feel. There are some places in the south that obviously would have that, and such. So, and if you go to, let's say, a city like Kolkata, be prepared to have your senses jarred a little. When you hit poverty in some of the areas I was in Kolkata, it overwhelms your senses because it is some of the stereotype, kids are hungry. And I can see from that kid's body, he's really hungry. Whereas you don't see that in the Philippines for the most part. We see poverty, but everybody generally looks like they have enough nutrition to exist, to be happy and such.
Even if people are skipping meals.
They could, and they are. They definitely are, which is that hidden piece that they're not going to readily share.
Sure, but maybe not so much
it's
that
not,
you can physically see it like in India.
Famine. Yeah, when you see that and those kids come up, and granted it can get so manipulative that, God knows what parents are doing to make sure their kids, I'm thinking of Slumdog Millionaire where we saw those scenes of them blinding those kids so that they get more money when they beg. But it is there. So when you get to the poverty parts of the big cities, I haven't been out in the provinces too much in India, but yeah, it can get really, really bad. So there's a disparity of the incomes over there for sure.
Of course, yeah. And I guess that's a big difference. Philippines about 110, 120 million people. India, 1 point something billion. So that just has to make a big difference.
And when you say things like when visiting India, it's like it would be like saying I'm going to visit Africa. Well,
it's just such an enormous.
The next question would be,
place.
well, what part of Africa? What country? Because you got Egypt in the north and South Africa. I mean, it's
radically different.
And the states are all different. And the states everybody speaks Hindi up north. I didn't realize this. Down south, they kind of know Hindi because it's the national language, but because of political differences, they don't even want to speak it. They don't want to know it. And each state has their own language. So then that becomes, and they're very autonomous.
Sure.
There was one state that I learned actually has a communist state government.
That's
The
very
C word.
surprising.
I just said the C word. They do, and it's actually doing very well.
Interesting.
But whatever the national constitution allows for that independence.
Sure.
Which of course many American states would love to have that, wouldn't they?
I could imagine. All right, I got some rapid fire questions
Okay,
for you.
go.
You can't think, you just got to answer.
Ooh.
So thinking about both countries, your favorite thing about India?
Culture,
Your favorite thing about Philippines?
people,
Least favorite thing about India? You're thinking.
the abruptness, argumentative,
Least favorite thing about the Philippines?
efficiency.
All right, got it. If you had to pick one place to spend a month, which country would you pick?
Philippines.
All right. My friend, always great to have you on the channel. Thank you so much for
Always.
sharing your experience.
Always, dear Sir John.
Guys, don't forget to check out Marco's Being Empowered below. And when you get over there, remind him to send me some money for plugging his channel. So much in this video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, guys. Take care.